Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is not Garth, right? This is Dalibor Strop, and I would like to introduce my friend and business partner, Garth. We spend a lot of time together on travels and expanding the business to new markets. So this will actually be the topic. I really enjoyed the time being with Garth on different trips and sharing some information about the business and stuff, having fun, meeting new people, and just enjoying ourselves, enjoying life. And I believe that Garth is going to share a lot of this with you in this webinar, and you will love it as well as I do when I'm listening to Garth's stories. So Garth, over to you.
Thanks, Dalibor. I have so many wonderful memories of my time in this business with NHT Global with you, from local events that we've done together along with Tom Thomas, to being in Hong Kong and different parts of Europe, and just tremendous travel. You're such a professional and such an outstanding speaker and trainer, and really an example of professionalism for me. So I appreciate hearing your warm words and any introduction from you. I have huge respect for you.
Thank you, Garth. I appreciate it.
Okay. I'm going to do this this webinar, and I have to tell you that network marketing leaders are not immune to getting sick. I know Dan and Joe have had their struggles in the years with things, even though they're probably the most focused, positive-minded, health-oriented, on the products, exercising guys imaginable. And I actually try to outdo them in the categories of what I put in my body and how much fitness and weightlifting and exercise that I do. And I just try to do everything right. And yet still, 10 days ago, my whole family got hit by the flu. And now I'm finally at the end of it. It seems unbelievable to me because I feel like I'm indestructible and bulletproof and can't get sick, but it happened. And so if sometimes I have to pull away from this webinar to clear my throat or cough, please forgive me. And I'm just doing my best to do the best possible webinar for you that I can. So I want to talk to you about successfully launching new markets around the world. And I decided that this time, because I've done this topic before, that I would do my best to come up with some stories and examples that you have never heard before. I've been in this business since 1991. Obviously, that was not with NHT Global when I started, since our company is not that old. But I've been in the business for a long, long time. And I learned a lot of things, and I'm going to share even a few things that I learned in the beginning in America. See if I can advance this. There we go. Just so you know, almost everybody listening, I'm sure knows, but that's my wife, Anna, and that's when we were in Croatia. And those three little boys are our three foster children, who we consider our sons, and that's Christian and Samuel and Sebastian. And they're really, they have so much energy. They make me feel like I'm sitting in a rocking chair. I mean, they can just go nonstop. And talk about a challenge for a 63-year-old guy to basically retune his thinking and think in terms of being 43. Well, these kids have done it, and I keep up with them somehow, but it's a miracle, and I got to stay in top shape to do it. They're incredible, and they just provide so much love to me, unconditional love, that it just fills my heart and fills my life. So I'm so thankful that I have a wife partner like Anna to deal with this and to raise these boys well and to have these kids. And I know all of you listening who have children of your own, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. So let me get on with the webinar about the business. Here's a map of the world, and since a very early age, I think when I was a teenager, 17 years old, I used to sit in an airport, SeaTac International Airport in Seattle-Tacoma area, where I lived at that time. And I used to sit in the airport and just watch people coming in and going from around the world. I was so fascinated with world travel and different cultures. So I love maps, and you're going to see a bunch of them on this webinar. I'm originally from the United States, from the West Coast, basically from California. So if you look way over on the left side of the green area, you can see San Francisco and Los Angeles. Kind of the whole coastal areas is where I started my life. But when I joined network marketing in 1991, I was living near where you see Los Angeles on the green on the far lower left in Malibu, California. And I made the bizarre decision that I was going to launch the West Coast for that company, which was an exploding opportunity. Dan Cato and Joe Garcia were with that company. Here is a picture, I believe, of Toronto, where Dan and Joe are from. Beautiful, beautiful place. Another picture of Toronto. And this is the beach, I believe, in Boca Raton, Florida. And I think that Dan Cato has a beach house there. And so that's the kind of thing that he sees when he goes for a walk 6 months of the year, because he's one of those guys who very intelligently goes and lives by the beach in southern Florida during the cold months, and then heads back up north during the warm months. And he's probably quite familiar with this place. This is a big resort in Boca, and I imagine he's done some meetings and presentations there before. So I'm just throwing this in because I love you guys. So this was my market, and if you look on the far left part, right in the middle, you see San Francisco, and then go down the coast, you see Los Angeles. And I knew people in San Francisco, and then all the way up, if you look on the top left, you can see Seattle-Tacoma area. And I knew people in those areas as well, and I knew people in Orange County in the Los Angeles area. So I thought, well, it's just logical. I'm gonna launch it all. This is Seattle, Washington, and that's Mount Rainier in the background. And this is truly one of the most beautiful regions in all of North America. Really, really spectacular. I spent years there. I was there when I was a high school student living in that area. This is Mount Rainier, and I have hiked right along the shores of that lake that you see in this picture. Now we go down the coast to between San Francisco and Los Angeles, and up above you can see on the top left, you can see San Francisco, and I knew people in the, you can see San Jose, Santa Clara area. That's the Silicon Valley. And then down in Los Angeles, if you look down, you can see Anaheim, Santa Ana, Huntington Beach. I knew people in those areas. Here's a picture of San Francisco, which in my opinion is the most beautiful city in America. This is part of the Silicon Valley. This is San Jose, California. And that's where one of my top leaders was, the leader who actually reached the same level that I was at. I was one level below the highest level in that company. Of course, Dan was at the highest level. And when I was there, Joe was at the same level that I was at, fighting to get up to where Dan was. It was great for me to have a leader under me who achieved that same level. By the way, in our company, because of our matching bonus, be thrilled if you personally recruit a leader who exceeds you and goes right past you on the IRP, because the company will continue to pay you on that volume as well as pay you your matching bonus. And I can tell you, if you could develop a platinum or an ambassador that you personally sponsored, and that they had one or two underneath them, you would never think about finances for the rest of your life. And that would just be on one successful recruiting. Here is the Bay Area, the traffic. And, you know, I'm going to say on this webinar that there are things that you need to consider that are really important to understand whenever you're launching new markets. And one of them was just trying to get to appointments on time when I go to the Bay Area, because Malibu just has a country road by the sea where I was living. But the Bay Area, the traffic reminded me of a place quite near where I was living. I was living here in Malibu, California. That's the Malibu Pier, and a beautiful area, a semi-arid desert. And this view is not the exact view from my house, because I can't find a picture of the view from my living room of the house where I lived in Malibu. But it was an incredible home on 3 levels, built into the side of a mountain overlooking the sea. And why I would ever want to expand my business so that I had to travel all the time and go away from that, I have no idea. So if you look in the upper left coastal area of this map, you'll see Los Angeles, and just below and to the left of the L is Malibu. That's where I was living. And I developed another leader who reached that same level with me, down in the area. If you look down the coast and you see Costa Mesa in that area, well, that's fine. That's a local person, local leader. Good idea, right? Easy to visit, no problem. This is a picture of one of the interchanges in the LA freeway, Los Angeles freeway. Voted again this year as the worst traffic in all of North America. And it would take me sometimes to go from Malibu down to Costa Mesa. This is in the same town, basically. It would take 3 hours each way. It was like building a group long distance. And then this is a picture of South Orange County from the air. And actually down below, that lower area is very close to where the NHT Global headquarters are in Southern California. So here are the points that I want to make from this first section. You know, launch every market with your biggest package as the normal starting point. In my first company, I won't even begin to explain to you how big the biggest package was. You could spend a small fortune on your first package. But we definitely understood that you help people to get into the business with the most possible products and opportunity to be successful, with a high commitment that was costly so that they wouldn't easily quit, with products that they could use for themselves, for their family, and then products that they could use for demonstration as well as for selling. And for our company, that means platinum packages. I got to tell you, just when I started, we only had gold. We didn't have a platinum package. But as we've all seen, the volume has gone crazy as a result of people who build platinum organizations. And you just cannot start people in the business even thinking about bronze or silver, or preferably not even gold, because they just can't get off to the professional start that they need to with the commitment they need to. Not only that, but whatever they do is going to duplicate through their organization. There's lots of different benefits of the platinum package, but one of the greatest is that you start as platinum, and when you recruit people and they say, which package do you recommend? Where did you start? You can say without question platinum. And if you happen to be one of those golds who upgraded to platinum, that's fine. Just say, I'm a platinum, and build that organization. Because if you've seen income charts on this, you'll know there's a radical difference in the amount of money that you will make and your people will make if they're building a platinum organization. There's just no comparison. So please just lock that into your thinking. Another point I would make would be build it first in your own backyard. It is really expensive to travel great distances with great markets. And you may say, well, I know a fantastic person who's only over in the next country. If you're in Europe, that would be normal. In America, only a couple of states away, quick flight. Only in Turkey or only in Malaysia or something like that. Well, great, that's wonderful. Only in Africa, only in Australia. But look at that next point. Your income must pay for all your travel expenses, or you're not ready to launch a long distance market. Don't think that you can just run some ads somewhere on the other side of the world, put on your headset and get on the phone and do your Skype calls, and boom, some huge market is going to launch with the help of a couple of upline three-ways. It just, it is the long haul. And there's a wonderful story, a wonderful book that I'm sure many of you read called Acres of Diamonds. And if you haven't read it, read it. And understand the point that unless you're living a hermit up in a cabin in the mountains, if you're living in a populated area, you have a market right there that you can build. Find your way into the great tools on Steam Team website on knowing how to prospect. If you think that you've exhausted your list and have no one else to show the business to, and you will learn that very quickly you can have a huge list and you can reach people right around you. The bottom line is, make sure that your paycheck from doing your business will pay for all of your travel expenses, flights and visas and food and hotels and the little coffees, which can, suddenly a little coffee with a small group of people is $100, $200, $300, 300 euros. So please don't launch until you have the income to back it up. I know it's frustrating, you're biting the bit, you want to get on the plane, but just wait till you're earning the money. Now, this is a picture of Prague, and this is the place where I live with my family. It's obviously a very beautiful place. By the way, in this webinar, I'm not singling out pictures of distributors in certain places and naming names. I'm taking pictures from Google Images, and I'm just focusing on understanding how to build a business successfully long distance. Now, after I joined NHT Global, and I was living in Europe at the time, amazingly, a market that came under me was in Mexico and in Guadalajara, Mexico. If you look up on the top of this picture and you see Mexico, and you can see in the middle, it just says Mexico, it's Mexico City, and to the left of that is Guadalajara. And so I needed to go and support because a group got going there. And by the way, if you look down on this map, down in the South America, that purple country, you see Peru, and that's where Joe is right now while I'm doing this. So, all right, so this is the largest lake in Mexico, and it's right near Guadalajara. I went there when I was there. I ate this food, and the food is incredible. I just can't forget it. This was years ago. I just cannot forget that food. Can't wait to go back and eat more. Another picture of it. Wow. I mean, it's just a taste explosion in your mouth. And here is Guadalajara. And Guadalajara is a beautiful city, and we had a great group there, and they were excited about building the business. But I'll explain what happened in just a minute. This, I believe, is Lima, Peru, and this is that town, Trujillo, or Joe will come back and explain how to pronounce this correctly. But anyway, he's there now doing these events in multiple locations. But what I learned from this is when you launch these new markets, just a minute, I'm going to make a little noise. Sorry. When you launch new markets, only schedule a big event if you know the distributors can get their packages. I went to Guadalajara and there was a big group there. I don't know, 35, 40 people, all golds. But the problem is I was too early for that market. I went in there without making sure, and I'll take responsibility for this, without making sure that these distributors could order and get their packages, and that they would go through customs and they would get them and the business could grow. And you can imagine what it's like, what it means for people. If you arrive, you do great training, they're excited, but they know inside that they're not even sure if their package is going to get through customs and get to them. That is irresponsible. Fine, go ahead, build some strength. Let the company know that you have some people in a new area that we haven't officially gone into and done all certification, whatever. People are ordering through the internet, okay? So it's fine. But please don't sell a market as being ready to explode when you haven't taken the time to work with Dan and Joe and with the company and making sure that all the support is necessary and product delivery and everything that the people need so that they can get their packages. And I could tell you really horror story after horror story of market that I made the mistake of helping to launch only to have many distributors who couldn't get their package or had to pay outlandish fees to try to get their packages out of import. And anyway, I learned my lesson, and so I want to share that with you. And when you launch a new market, if you can support it with regular visits by you or your upline or downline, that's fine. But if you launch a new market and you're a one-hit wonder and you just expect to fly in one time and it'll take off and be fine and not need you anymore, whether it's because you don't have the time or you don't have the resources, that is not responsible building of new markets. So just count the costs before you launch a market and know that people need live support. People need you there. A Skype video call into a group once a week is not going to build a massive market. That's why Joe is where he is right now. That's why Dan's been there as well. That's why these guys have been, and I have been all around the world repeatedly, multiple times, because we want the markets to stay. So we give the support. Okay, so let me go down. Maybe. Here's a map of Russia. This is without question the largest country in the world. And if you can imagine, from tip to tip, it covers 13 time zones. And, you know, through Thomas recruiting of Elena Kazurova, and then the many, many trips that he and I made across Russia and Kazakhstan, and Dan and Joe as well, and the company and so on, it developed into a wonderful market. And I could name so many experiences that I had in these different places that you see on this map. Really incredible country. Here's pictures from Moscow, and really beautiful, beautiful city. And here's another picture of Russia. And this time I want you to focus on some specific places. If you look over on the far left, you see Moscow. And, you know, Prague is in Europe. And when I go anywhere in Russia, I pretty much have to fly into Moscow and then to the next place. And if you look over on the far right side of the screen, you can see an island out there. And on the bottom of the island, it says Sakhalinsk. And if you look to the left of Sakhalinsk in Russia, you see Khabarovsk, which I've been through several times and done events. It's interesting, you stay in a hotel, and when you look out the window, you're looking across the river at China. So, but I'm going to go to this place in the last week of March, or the third week of March, and I'll have to fly from Moscow and then travel all the way across the country to Khabarovsk. And then my trip's not over. From Khabarovsk, I will get on a train and I will travel through the night for 10 hours to go to the city above that. If you look on that line of the river, and you can see Komsomolsk na Amure. So I fly to Khabarovsk, and then I go up to Komsomolsk. And this is an image that I will see on the screen. I found this on Google. It's great. And this is for the flight going from Moscow to Khabarovsk. 14 hours one way. It'll be 8 hours later time zone there. Yeah, talk about the physical toll that these trips take. It's really, really amazing. Then I go and get on, here I'll be in Khabarovsk. And then you can see Khabarovsk on the lower right. And then I'll travel along that line. You see the river. Well, there's trains that go along there to Komsomolsk. I'll be on a train that looks just like this. By the way, Thomas Knopik and Joe Garcia have both made this incredible trip. I think the most difficult of any that I can imagine that I've done in all my travels for NHT Global. And then I'll arrive at the station. I'll be with Helen Chaga on this trip. Wonderful Helen Chaga from corporate, an amazing translator and trainer, and one of the product inventors will be with us to do a 2-day event. And there's an aerial view of Komsomolsk. And a little interesting background on Komsomolsk is it's the Russian government proudly points to Komsomolsk as the city that was built by their youth. The reality is, if you do a little research, you discover that the city was built by their minorities and prisoners. And they built it into this city. So it's going to be interesting being there. I think I'm not going to speak about my knowledge of how the city was really built when I'm there. Here's a picture of Komsomolsk in the evening. And here are the points I want to make from this section. When you cross multiple time zones, you have to allow for extra recovery days. You know, if you lose your health, especially in the middle of one of these trips, it's disastrous. It's bad enough when you get back if you're sick. So when you cross multiple time zones, allow for extra recovery days, at least one on arrival and then one before departure, just for rest and preparing yourself to go back across all those time zones, to have your legs trapped, sitting in a seat on an airplane, unless you're Dan or Joe, where you'll be in business or first class, lying down in your own compartment. But for most of us, it means that our legs are going to be trapped for 10, 12, 14-hour trips, and you really have to be rested up for that. Make sure when you get to a place that you have an excellent translator who can explain network marketing terminology accurately. I once did well, I've done many trainings with translators, and occasionally I'm just given like a high school student who can translate English text and has no idea how to translate, has no idea about anything about network marketing, and has never spoken in public before. I've had translators who just freeze and stare at the audience, and I have to kind of take them by the shoulders and guide them off the stage and beg for anyone in the room who can speak English. So make sure you take care of that ahead of time. And by the way, translators can charge as much as 60 euros an hour. And that adds up pretty fast. So for example, when I go to Komsomolsk, I will stay an extra 2 days just to close platinums, meaning just to sign up as many prospects as possible with and to help the local leaders. And I will have a translator with me who understands the business and how to explain it. So really, really important. And then finally, here's a map of Asia. And just a minute. I apologize for that. Here's a map of Asia, and if you look over on the far right, you can see Japan, and just to the left of Japan, you can see South Korea. And this is a market that South Korea, that I've been traveling to for close to 5 years. I've gone many times. I usually go twice a year. It's another 14-hour trip from Prague to go there. I'm able to fly direct. But I usually fly into Seoul. This is Seoul, Korea. It's really beautiful. I know this picture has been colorized. It's from Google, but it really is a spectacular city, far more than any photo. And here's Gangnam, which is the very famous neighborhood from the famous song Gangnam Style, and that's where the office for NHC Global is. But I have to travel from Seoul. And look at this map, you can see Seoul on top. And then if you look down on the bottom right, you see Busan, actually pronounced Busan. And that's where our leader in our group is in South Korea. So I either fly into Taipei, Taiwan, and then fly into Busan, or I fly into Seoul, and which is my usual route. Oh, by the way, just to the right of Seoul, you can see Pyeongchang, which is where the Olympics Games are happening right now. But I usually fly into Seoul, and then I ride on one of these bullet trains, which goes some incredible speed. Everything's just whizzing by outside the window, and they have 4G, high-speed, full-time on the train, and people are just sitting back watching baseball games and soap operas in the news. It's quite a technological marvel, South Korea. And then I arrive here, and this is in Busan, really, really beautiful city by the sea. And here's a beach that I usually end up in, and very often I stay in one of those hotels. Like in the past, I've stayed in that one that's right in the middle. That's the Novotel Ambassador Hotel. Anyway, wonderful beach there, and I have a leader there named Yoon. I guess I can name one of my people. And Yoon has been the motivation for making all these trips down there, for building a great group. But what I've struggled to do is understand the Asian culture completely, something I really needed to do, and to understand how focused they are on a single leader. They usually always have one strong leader, and he leads everything. And that's been hard for me to deal with, because I am all about leadership development. You know, if you have a market anywhere in your own town or across the state or across the country or in another country, you can't have one leader who leads the whole presentation, and the other people don't get to speak, don't give testimonies, don't share about the products or the opportunity or the marketing plan, or introduce the seminar, or share one of the stories of their success. You've got to have leaders who are willing to unselfishly develop other leaders, or they can never be successful. It's impossible in network marketing to be successful when you're always on the stage in front of everyone, and other people are not developed and appreciated and recognized and help to push people up. That's the principle. And so I've really learned, and I'm doing everything I can when I go to South Korea to help develop new leaders there, and I need to do it everywhere I go. So at this point, some markets are driven by prizes, some by pins and time on stage, but others are by cash. And I have to tell you that I probably spent 1/3 of all my commissions from my business in South Korea on both the trips and cash prizes and incentives for leaders and for successful people in that market. And if you're not making the income, don't offer that stuff, because it adds up fast. I mean, the numbers would be staggering if I told you. But understand that different markets have people who are excited by different things. Some people just give me some stage time and recognition. Other people, put the biggest pin on me and let me get the next one by the next event. And other people hand me some kind of beautiful prize. Or let me shake the hands of the president or vice president or the ambassador or whatever. And others buy cash. So understand that different markets require different things. Develop multiple stage leaders, as I said, because leaders move on, or leaders develop new markets and they're not there anymore. You've got to make sure you have stage leaders. And number one, you must develop a local leader who can succeed even if you could never return. God forbid anything happens to you, an accident, medical reasons, whatever, that causes you to not be able to travel, but you absolutely must develop at least one local leader in any new market who, even if they never see you again, they could be successful. That's really one of your highest goals. I know where Joe is right now. He's got some phenomenal leaders who are like that. I know in Europe and in other markets in my business and where I'm going in Russia and so on, I've got leaders that I just know no matter what, they're going to make it. They're going to go to the top. They just can't be stopped. Well, that is an absolute key to financial freedom. So I want to encourage you. I want to wrap this up, but I want to encourage you, go out and find some great leaders, people with even more passion and vision than you have, more excitement. It'll excite you. Make sure they sign up as platinum and understand the importance of developing a platinum organization so that people make lots of money. It's really important in this business. And I wish you tremendous success. And I hope that some of this information has been helpful for you. So I'm going to wrap up the webinar with that. And thank you very much for listening to me. God bless you and much success.